school drop-off done. Just gonna head down to the lake and do a bit of filming with the new DJI Osmo Nano. Gonna put it up against the Insta360 Go Ultra. I'm only gonna do one comparison because it's been done to death, I think, already, but I've bought both these cameras with my own money. Most of the other comparisons I've seen so far are when one company or the other has given the camera to the reviewer, so it's completely unbiased. Probably the only thing is that I've been using the Insta360 for longer, so I know maybe a little bit more about it. So we will see how that goes. I'm going to head down to a place called Miller Ground, just by Lake Windermere. Myself into a space. Used to come down here quite a lot when we lived in Windermere and Bowness. Heading down here to Miller Ground, the DJI Osmo Nano and the Insta360 Go Ultra. Both on 4K 30, both on standard colour profiles, standard image stabilization, both as close to the same settings as I can get. I did a test yesterday running, but there was some dirt on the Insta360 lens and it ruined the footage, so I wasn't able to use it as a comparison, unfortunately. So I've popped out again today. We have another beautiful day. I'm going to walk down here. It's fairly dark here. Good test of dynamic range this, because it's quite dark in the trees and then we have quite a bright sky, so it'd be interesting to see the differences between the two. Off the bat, just setting them up, the Insta360 has more buttons on the camera module, on the pod, the dock, whatever you want to call it, and it actually makes it a lot easier to use because you have different functions with the different buttons. Probably it's something I could get used to, but the DJI Nano, I am struggling sometimes to understand what to do with the record buttons. Get down close here. How's the audio there? Off the bat, on the back of the screens, I can see that the Insta360 looks better. And now the DJI, although I know I can change that, the screen has gone off, so I can't actually see what I'm recording anymore. You see there, well, probably, yeah, if I just press it, it comes back on again. But I think that is something I can change in the settings. It's a cold morning today. Right, I'm going to get down to the lake and continue the footage there. Right, now we've got it going. So, down at the lake here, this is a National Trust site, publicly accessible. Absolutely beautiful, stunning site. I have to say, holding the Nano is a bit more awkward than holding the Insta360, and that screen that can tilt really does give you a lot more options. Definitely a different colour profile. It's very much personal which one you prefer, really. The one advantage of the DJI is it does do D-Log M, so if you want to get into colour grading, you can do that. I'm going to give that a go later and just see how well it works. Let's just swing around. They're both on the linear profile. DJI, I think, call it linear. Insta360 call it D-Warp, if I remember rightly. And I've tried to keep everything as close to the same as I can. Oh, I do love Windermere in the morning when it's super calm like this. Just absolutely amazing place to be. Let's do a bit more testing here. This is quite a dark woods. Let's point it up to the sky and see if we can see any differences in dynamic range between the two. I'm also using both of their inbuilt mics. I was going to connect the mic mini to the DJI, but I felt it was unfair because I couldn't do the same with the Go Ultra, not without the transmitter module. But from what I've seen, all the smaller mics nowadays pretty much the same, all got pretty damn good audio quality, especially considering the size of the things. I'm going to do a little run and see. They are both on standard stabilization mode, just see if we can tell much difference between the two. It's just hand holding them both, holding them fairly still, but we are bouncing around. How's that? Actually, I'm going to disconnect, put it down, disconnect that, turn it around. Now I can see myself. So now I can see myself on both screens. The DJI seems to have different framing. It does have quite a lot smaller screen, but in fairness, it's more than good enough to actually see what you're doing and frame the shot. So I don't think we really need anything else. One thing I do like about the Insta360, you can do the 2 times. I think that's quite a nice shot. That actually, it looks like you're shooting with a much more professional, much bigger camera, because you don't have that ultra wide field of view and it's still in 4K. Because it's exposing for my face 60, exposes for my face because it's on like face detect exposure, whereas the DJI is exposing more for the whole scene. If I take my face out the scene, you can see now it exposes better for the whole scene because it's on like face detect exposure, whereas the DJI is exposing more for the whole scene. You can see now it exposes better for the whole scene. In a way it's quite nice because it does mean that I can flip myself. In a way it's quite nice because it does mean that I can flip myself into the screen like that and it will expose for my face, which when you're vlogging is probably more important. Now in the running test yesterday, I wanted to check the battery life of both of them. 4K, 30 frames a second, the high stabilization rates for both of them, and the Insta360 got 47 minutes. The DJI went on for 55 minutes. Not an enormous difference, but that definitely, you know, is a good few minutes extra. And if you are like I was doing a longer run, it could mean that you get the entire run in instead of getting cut off halfway through. that was the camera module only, not connected to the pods. Now in this shot, that flip down screen is a huge advantage to having to do that. I know I could split the modules, but then I suppose if I only have one camera, I can hold one in one hand and one in the other hand. But shooting like this, one-handed, the Insta360 definitely has the advantage there. I can also, with the camera pod, get it closer to the water. I don't think I dare get it any closer because neither of the pods are actually waterproof. So there you go, quick comparison between the two. Both standard profiles, both 4K 30, both standard image stabilization. I will say that the DJI D-Warp linear profile, whatever they call it, does look wider than the Insta360. That's kind of going to come down to personal preference. The Insta360 probably can do the same with the DJI. Does expose for your face, which can leave it prone to blowing out the highlights, especially if we walk, say, this way where there's a break in the trees. We can see there, at least I can see on the screen, that the highlights are blown out, but my face is correctly exposed. Again, that's a setting issue and down to personal preference again, which you prefer, the correct exposure on a face or the scene exposure. It's particularly obvious there. If I dive out of the way, the Insta360 will then correctly expose. The DJI does look to expose a little darker. That could be the screen, we shall see. Right, I'm going to shoot a bit of D-Log now with the DJI. I'm getting so confused with which one's which now. I'm going to shoot a bit of D-Log with the DJI and have a play with that for another video. That's all for now. Bye.